Hola amigos, feliz viernes. Hoy es viernes. Yo soy Rory y estoy contento estar aquí contigo. Almost fanatically, we focus on using the usted form in speaking with adults and using language that fits, kind of professional settings and things like that, because if anything, as you grow up going through high school, college, learning Spanish, if you had some experience with Spanish when you were in school, you probably really focused on the to form and not the usted form. And so that's like the number one tone thing that we work on in our classes throughout the years and with the majority of our students. But there is a time, and language is different when you speak with children. So there is a time to use the to form and to speak more informally when you're working with children. And so we don't spend a lot of time focusing on that, but I got a note from one of our students who's headed off to Costa Rica to join us on our program there, our Spanish immersion program, medical Spanish immersion, and he is signed up for some additional lessons while he's there. And he's like, you know what, I really want to focus on my baby talk because I talk to little children who are in emergency situations, and I need to be able to, speak to them in language that's meaningful to them and not necessarily just like I would with adults. And so there are dos cambios específicos you can do when you're speaking with children in order to make it sound more kid-friendly. First of all is your tono informal. You're going to use informal tone, and the best way to do that is to use la forma tú en vez de la forma usted. Spanish has two different U's. The usted form is for adults and la forma tú is for children, probably in the mid-teens and below. The to form is perfect. And so you would say something like, instead of, does something hurt? You might say, te duele algo, versus for an adult, you would say, le duele algo. And so this te refers to the to form, and that le refers to the usted form. So we'll see some examples of how to use the to form in some common clinical questions. But changing your tone is one great way to begin speaking a little more relevant to kids. The other is to usar el diminutivo, and at least know that it exists, the diminutive form of different words. And so, for example, la pancita versus la panza, or la barriguita versus la barriga. And you might be thinking, gosh, I don't know what la panza or la barriga mean. What is that even? These are non-medical terms for belly or abdomen. And so whereas you might say el abdomen, you could say la barriga or la panza. But with kids, la barriguita, la pancita. Okay? All right. Great. So using the diminutive, we'll see. I'll show you how to form the diminutive so that you can take pretty much any word for body parts and things like that and give it this ito or ita form on the end and make it sound a little more relevant to kids. Okay, let's start with tone. So tone's going to show up in a couple of sort of grammar aspects of Spanish. First of all, it's just using the regular to conjugation versus the usted conjugation. That's number one. For example, we'll use tienes versus tiene, because we're just going to use the regular to form instead of the usted form. Tienes is the to form, tiene is the usted form. And so in all verbs have the to form or the usted form. So if we're going to ask the verb feel, for example, here's another example, not using tener. Sientes el dolor cuando haces ejercicio. Those verbs are all in la forma tú. Okay? All right. Another area of Spanish where the to versus usted pops up is when we have indirect object pronouns. You're like, oh, Rory, you're blowing my head up with grammar speak. Okay, these are the te's, the mays, te's, and lays, that kind of thing. So when we're talking to children, we're going to say te duele, and we're not going to say le duele. Okay, le duele for adults, te duele for children. Like, does this hurt? Okay. We'll also see the indirect object pronoun pop up in other ways as well, not just does it hurt. So here's an example. Necesito escucharte los pulmones. I need to listen to, essentially we're saying your lungs. Necesito escucharte los pulmones. Whereas if it were adult, it would be escucharle los pulmones. Here's another example. Te espero aquí. I'll wait for you here versus le espero aquí. All right. And then also we have commands. The command tense is a little different for la forma tu, and also reflexive verbs. So let's take a look at some commands and reflexive verbs. So sentarse is the verb to sit down, right? So that's a command when you say sit, and it has the reflexive. So siéntate aquí, sit here, versus siéntese aquí for adults, okay? And another example of a command, respira profundo, por favor. If you were giving that command to an adult, it would be respire profundo, por favor. And here's another command with the reflexive pronoun, acuéstate, por favor, versus acuéstese, por favor. Okay, so there's three kind of aspects of how to change your tone a little bit on a grammar level. And so the first is just using the to form. The second is with our indirect objects, we have to use the to version of the indirect object. And then finally in our commands, we use the to command, plus when it's reflexive, we have to use the to pronoun, okay? The to reflexive pronoun. Okay, great. One of the things that kind of makes this a little bit hard and might feel a little limiting on a given level for us as native English speakers is that there are some cultural differences when it comes to speech and how, I guess, the lengths that we're willing to go to accommodate people with our speech. I would say in general, that folks in North America will go to great lengths to accommodate others in speech, whether it's working hard to use the proper pronouns for someone or, really modifying our speech to fit the audience and to make everyone feel comfortable and welcomed and that kind of thing. As I work with our team of interpreters and staff at Common Ground that are native Spanish speakers that help with this stuff, they recognize that English is kind of hard because you're not really sure what word is to use and what would be offensive in what context and what might honor someone more in a different context, that sort of thing, because Spanish is just a little bit more straightforward and a little less I guess hesitant to say the wrong thing. So there are some diferencias culturales, and yes, this is a broad stroke stereotype, so lo siento, but en Norteamérica nosotros nos enfocamos mucho en palabras. We focus a lot on words. No queremos ofender, we don't want to offend. Ponemos énfasis en acomodar nuestras palabras al cliente. So we really emphasize accommodating words for our patients and modifying those. En Latinoamérica, nuestras palabras, en Latinoamérica hay menos énfasis en acomodar palabras al paciente. There's just less emphasis in accommodating words to people. Una visita médica es más formal en general. So a visit to the doctor is just generally more of a formal setting. Así que vamos a ver menos opciones de palabras. So you'll likely see, just fewer options for words. And for example, a great example, online, you will find, if you look up the word owie for like a boo-boo or an owie, like a little bump for the kid. In fact, there's really no bump. Your kid just fell on his knee and there's not even a scrape, but he's got a little owie and a little boo-boo and we should rub it and everyone will feel good, right? Put a Band-Aid on it and it'll be fine. As I have been picking the brains of both our staff and our interpreters and things like that, trying to figure out a good equivalent for owie, there are some things online, but no one can corroborate them, whether it's just like something super regional or, to be fair, all of our research is done like in the Americas. So maybe there's some things in Europe, in Spain that exist that aren't used much here in the Americas. But anyway, there are fewer words and fewer accommodations with language in Spanish. We can say that with pretty good confidence. Okay. Un estilo super útil. That said, there is something really fun we can do with words. It's called the diminutive form of words. And so we could use this on all parts of the body. So like, for example, it's adding the ito and ita to the end of words. So if we focus on the body, we've got la mano, la manita, the little hand, la pierna, la piernita, la cabeza, la cabecita, la panza, la pancita. We saw that one before. That's belly, right? El brazo, el bracito, so the little arm. El dedo, el dedito. El pecho, el pechito, the little chest. La rodilla, la rodillita. And so you're seeing that it's basically the same word, but with an ito or ita on the end. So how do you form it? ¿Cómo se forma? Words that end in a vowel other than e, you add an ito or an ita to them. So like la barriga, la barriguita. El oso, bear, el osito. Like think of a teddy bear kind of thing. Okay? However, words that end in an E, an N, or an R, then you add the cito or cita to them. So for example, el piecito, the little foot. El corazón, el corazoncito. Okay? And so this ito, ita is definitely not something that we have in English, but it's a really fun way to take a term and make it sound more childish. Hey, if you are learning something right now in this lesson, please take a second, pause the video, like the video, subscribe to our YouTube channel, share the video out to your coworkers who work in pediatrics, that kind of thing. This is really how we are able to build our community and help others who are working on their Spanish have some really responsible use of Spanish with their patients. And in the end, this is how we impactar comunidades a través de idiomas. This is how we impact communities through language. So thanks for liking, sharing, subscribing, all that good stuff. It helps us out quite a bit, so thank you. All right, muy bien. Let's move on to pain. Preguntas sobre el dolor para el niño. So we've got this pain chart here, certainly not scientific if you wanted to ask someone to point to it, right? ¿Algo te duele? Does something hurt? ¿Dónde te duele? Does something hurt? Where does it hurt? ¿Qué te pasó? What happened? ¿Puedes tocar con un dedo? ¿Dónde te duele? Aquí, ahí. Can you touch with a finger where it hurts? ¿Te duele mucho o un poquito? Oh, there's that ito again. Instead of just poco, un poquito. Okay? ¿Te duele mucho o un poquito? ¿Puedes tocar la cara, que es como te sientes? Can you touch the face? That's how you feel. That represents how you feel. ¿Cuándo te duele más o menos? When does it hurt you more or less? So a handful of questions. Now, if we wanted to ask the parents about some pain, then there are some good questions that we could ask parents as what they're observing in their children. María se queja de algún dolor? Does your daughter Maria se queja de algún dolor? Complain about any pain? ¿Está llorando mucho? Are they crying a lot? ¿Se calma cuando lo tienen los brazos? Do they calm down when you have them in your arms? ¿Se calma cuando le da pecho? Do they calm down when you breastfeed? ¿Llora mientras le da pecho? Do they cry when you are breastfeeding? ¿Nota que está jalando o frotando los oídos? Do you notice if they're pulling or rubbing their ears? Okay. All right. When it comes to working with kids, you often need to tell them about what you're going to do and say, this isn't going to hurt, or here's what we need to do. So how do you walk through some of those exámenes con los niños? No te voy a lastimar. I'm not going to hurt you. Esto no va a doler. This isn't going to hurt. Or esto no te duele. This doesn't hurt. Ningún dolor. No pain. Okay? Solamente quiero escucharte el corazoncito or los pulmoncitos. I just want to listen to your heart or your lungs. ¿Quieres intentar? Do you want to try? Puedes escucharle el corazoncito a mami o papi. You can listen to your mom or dad's heart. ¿Ves? No te duele or no dolió. You see? It didn't hurt. Mira, te enseño. Look, I'm going to show you. Este manguito te va a apretar el bracito. Es como un abrazote. So this blood pressure cuff is going to squeeze your little arm. It's like a big hug. ¿Prefieres aquí o ahí? Do you prefer here or there? Esta lucecita es para tu dedito. No duele. For like the pulse ox. This little light is for your finger. It doesn't hurt. ¿Puedo tomarte la temperatura? Can I take your temperature? All right, so a handful of frases as you're going through and touching, examining the child. Okay, now, explicando inyecciones, certain things do hurt. And so how do you talk about when you have to give shots or when you know something is going to hurt, you're putting in the IV, you know, that kind of thing. All right, ¿dónde prefieres la inyección? ¿En el bracito derecho o izquierdo? ¿En la manita derecha o izquierda? So where do you prefer the injection? In the right arm or the left arm? In the right hand or the left hand? And this is something that it's an old trick that parents for many, many years have been using when they know there's only one outcome. And it's like, okay, do you want to pick up your toys now or in 5 minutes? Okay, 5 minutes, great. Your kid chose and now they're ready to go. Okay, so this is kind of a similar approach. Esto te va a pellizcar un poquito. This is going to pinch a little bit. Pellizcar, pinch. Pero no dura mucho, but it doesn't last long. Okay, vas a sentir un piquete. So now, when you're about to put the IV catheter in or you're about to give the injection, okay, this is going to pinch a little bit, okay? Vas a sentir un piquete. You're going to feel a pinch. Puedes llorar si quieres, solo no te muevas. You can cry if you want, just please don't move. Será más rápido si estás quieto. It'll be faster if you hold still. Ya terminamos. Tú eres tan valiente. You're so brave. Tú eres muy fuerte. You're so strong. Okay. All right. Muy bien. Okay. So that's explaining some of the hard things, some of the painful things. What about potty time? Let's have some potty talk here. Okay. So if you've got to talk about going potty, hacer de baño is one way. Hacer pipí, hacer popis. So go pee, go poo. And a question might be, ¿necesitas hacer de baño? Do you need to go to the bathroom? ¿Necesitas hacer pipí? ¿Hacer popis? Okay. ¿Tienes algún problema con hacer de baño? ¿O todo es normal? Do you have any problems with going to the bathroom? Or is everything good? The potty, the actual device, or not necessarily the piece of furniture, but like the little squatty potty type thing. El bacín, la bacinica, la bacinilla. Okay, those are good words for potty. ¿Usas la bacinilla en casa? Are you using the potty at home? So poopy could be popis, which we have up there. It's also popo. You've heard the word popo before. We've got pee, popo, but popis is kind of a cute little way to say poop. I would highly recommend not using the word caca. You've probably heard the word caca, but it's not really, it's not kid-friendly enough to use with children. It's pretty crass. And so, you know, there's all sorts of crass words for poop, right? So let's just stick to popo or popis, okay? All right. And then pee, of course, is pee. All right, muy bien. Otras cositas, a few other things, articles that a child might have and that you might want to refer to. So like a blankie would be a cobija or a cobijita, like a little blanket. A teddy bear, osito de peluche. Any kind of stuffed animal, un peluche. A doll would be la muñeca or a dolly, muñequita. Of course, you're seeing this here, the diminutive, right? Like the little doll. A toy would be a juguete, a little toy. Okay, well, obviously we can't cover everything in these lessons, and so if you have questions, please post them in the comments section below. We will be glad to help you figure out how to phrase things exactly how you want to phrase them, give you our perception or perspective on any given term or word that you like to use, phrasing, etc. So please, if you've got questions, post them in the comment sections. And otra vez, gracias por aprender español conmigo. Thanks again for learning Spanish with me. Juntos mejoramos comunidades. Together we truly are improving communities. For más español, head over to the website, commongroundinternational.com. And if you would like to take a medical Spanish terminology test, head over to Certified Spanish. You can create your free account and take as many medical Spanish terminology tests as you like. Okay, amigos, muchas gracias. Don't forget to like, subscribe, share, and comment. And we'll be seeing you la próxima semana. Ciao.